We're in 2 Kings 2. And it came to pass when the Lord was about to take up Elijah in heaven by a whirlwind, that Elijah went to Elisha from Gilgal. Then Elijah said to Elisha, "Stay here, please, for the Lord has sent me on to Bethel." But Elisha said, "As the Lord lives, and as your soul lives, I will not leave you." So they went down to Bethel. So if you remember, here's Elijah, and he went and picked up Elijah, remember, in 1 King, and he's supposed to be the prophet. He's supposed to take over for him. And he really knows that's what he's supposed to do, because what did he do? He took care, when he found out that he handed him his cloak, he took his oxen, he sacrificed them. He went back and told his parents he was not going to go back. So when he did this, he was really dedicated, wasn't he? He was in completely. So here's Elijah telling Elijah, "You don't need to go with me." And what's he say? He says, "I'm going with you." And then in verse 3 it says, "Now the sons of the prophet who were at Bethel came out to Elijah and said to him, 'Do you not know the Lord will take away your master from over you today?' And he said, 'Yes, I know. Keep silent.'" He doesn't want to know this is going to happen. He's like, "Keep silent." Just think, it'd be almost like losing your parent or something, because he gave up everything to follow him. And now he's hearing the Lord's going to take him today. So, but these prophets, they must have knew too also, didn't they? They got word of this too. And they knew that Elijah was going to be gone. So they're making sure they tell Elisha what's going to happen. Then in verse 4, Elijah said to him, "Elijah, stay here, please, for the Lord. He sent me on to Jerusalem, but he said, 'As the Lord lives and as your soul lives, I will not leave you.' So they came to Jericho. Now the sons of the prophets who were at Jericho came to Elijah and said to him, Do you know that your Lord will take away your master from over you today?" So he answered, "Yes, I know, so keep silent." So now he's got warned. Elijah's told him. These prophets have told him twice. So everybody's telling him, aren't they? And then we keep going on. Verse 6, and Elijah said to him, "Stay here, please, for the Lord has sent me on to Jordan." But he said, "As the Lord lives and as your soul lives, I will not leave you." So the two of them went on. And 50 men of the sons of the prophets went and stood facing them at a distance, while the two of them stood by the Jordan. So now these guys are watching them. These two, they told Elisha, that he's going to be going. Couldn't it be a test? Don't we get that sometimes when we do ministry? Doesn't God put stuff in front of us and say, "Hey, here's a temptation for you. Are you going to take it, or are you going to serve me?" You know, it's almost like a test, because they're telling him there's going to be problems. Are you going to continue in your ministry? Or are you going to walk away? Elisha doesn't do that, does he? He keeps going on. And then verse 8, now Elijah took his mantle, rolled it up, and struck the water, and it was divided this way and that. So the two of them crossed over the dry ground. And so it was, when they had crossed over, that Elijah said to Elijah, "Ask, what may I do for you?" before I'm taken away from you. Elijah said, please, let a double portion of your spirit be upon me. So here they are. Isn't this the second time the waters have been parted? Mm-hmm. Didn't happen back in Moses. So here's Elijah. He's done a lot of miracles. He's brought down fire. Now he separates the waters. He really has the spirits, don't he? Going with him. But then he asks Elijah, what can I do for you? And he says, please let a double portion of your spirit be upon me. So would you think, what's he asking for? Is he asking for it to be double as good as Elijah? When you listen to a lot of the reading on this and that, what you find out is back then, if you were the eldest son, what did you get when the inheritance came? You got double the amount that the younger ones did, didn't you? And here's Elijah, and Elijah really thinks he's like his father, isn't he? So he's asking for a double portion of his inheritance, isn't he? But what does Elijah go to say to him then? He says in verse 10, so he said, you have asked a hard thing. Nevertheless, if you see me when I'm taken from you, I shall be so for you. But if not, it shall not be so. So wait a minute. He said he's telling him, if you see me going, then you're going to get double portion. If not, then you're not getting it. You're not getting it. And then in verse 11 it says, then it happened as they continued on and talked, that suddenly a chariot of fire appeared with horses of fire and separated the two of them. And Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven. And Elijah saw it, and he cried out, my father, the chariots of Israel and its horsemen. So he saw him no more, and he took hold of his own clothes and tore them into two pieces. So here you go. Is this the first time somebody was taken up into heaven? No, Enoch was taken up into heaven before this. But he wasn't, nobody's seen him get taken up. Here, you have one person, you have Elijah see him taken up. You know, couldn't all the prophets went with him? They could have seen it, but God didn't plan on that to happen, did they? It's just like when Moses parted the sea for the first time, what was it parted for? 2 million of them went across, didn't they? This time when he parted the sea, there was just 2 of them. And that was it. So, here it is. Elijah saw him go up, didn't he? So if Elisha saw him go up, what's he going to get?
Double portion.
He's going to get a double portion he's asked for, isn't he? Mm-hmm. He's going to get what he asked for. And this is what, but then, in verse 15, Elijah saw it, and he cried out, my father, the chariots of Israel and its horsemen. And he saw no more, and he tore his clothes. He took hold of his own clothes and tore them into 2 pieces. He was crying for him, wasn't he? What did he call him? My father, my father. You know, when you spend that much time with somebody, what do they become like? They become like a father to you, don't they? They become a father figure. And that's what he was to him. And he's losing his father. He's getting taken up in heaven. And then in verse 13, and also took up the mantle of Elisha that had fallen from him, and went back and stood by the bank of Jordan. And he took the mantle of Elijah that had fallen from him, and struck the water and said, where is the Lord God of Elijah? And when he had struck the water, it was divided, this way and that. And Elijah crossed over. Wait a minute. So Elijah just separated the water too, didn't he? So, isn't that telling you he has the same powers now that Elijah had? He actually, whenever he got it, he got the double portion. Now he can do stuff that he couldn't do before. And then it says in verse 16, now when the son of prophets who were from Jericho saw him, they said, the spirit of Elijah rests on Elisha. And they came to meet him and bowed to the ground before him. Then they said to him, look now, there are 50 strong men with your servants. Please let them go and search for your master. At least perhaps the Spirit of the Lord has taken him up and cast him upon some mountain or into some valley. And he said, you shall not send anyone. So here's these prophets. They come up and they're like, oh, God just took them and just put them in a different city. And they're saying, well, let us go look for him. He's saying, you're not going to find him. He's gone. They don't believe him. Because in verse 17 they said, but they urged him till he was ashamed, he said, send them. Therefore they sent 50 men, and they searched for 3 days, but did not find him. And when they came back to him, for he had stayed in Jericho, he said to him, did I not say to you, do not go? So they even went and looked for him. They didn't really believe him, did they? If you start thinking about that, he said, God took him up. Well, he's just in another city hiding. Because you remember, Elijah disappeared for a while, didn't he? Until he came back to Ahab the king and talked to him, didn't he? So they're thinking he's doing the same thing here. But this time, God didn't do that. God lifted him up and took him out. So what we can learn from this is that, sometimes God tests us. He finds out, like he did for Elisha here. Are we going to actually stick with what we said? Or are we going to move on and do something else? Because he kept telling Elijah, you don't need to go with me. You can just stay back. And sometimes we're tested the same way. Are we going to continue in the ministry? Or are we going to let some little thing just walk away? Let's go to prayer.